what you're doing is not very easy.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It was so it took a lot to achieve all that.
Yeah, because you said it has to come up and out at the same time.
Yeah. Up and forward and out.
Just enough to clear the fenders and the door and the.
Well, you've got the cowl all integrated
all
into the hood, so there's it's your edges in the back are
and it's that coming out of a
It's got to come out of the
area.
hole. Yeah, it's got to come out of the hole.
And unfortunately, that when someone goes out and looks at it out on the floor at the show, you don't really see that.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was one of the other things that we wanted to do about the truck was to make sure that what we did, you couldn't just walk over and go, oh, well, they did that, they did that. There's so many subtle touches.
Hey, welcome to Car Guy Confessions, brought to you by ARP. I'm Jeff Smith. This is my car buddy Cam Benty and car builder Steve Strope, and we're going to tell you some stories.
Welcome to another episode of Car Guy Confessions with Jeff Smith. My friend Cam Benty, Dean Livermore from Hot Rods by Dean.
Yes.
We want to first acknowledge our sponsors, arp-bolts.com. We couldn't do this stuff without them. You know, we're at the Grand National Roadster Show out here at Pomona Fairgrounds. We want to thank John Buck and Kevin Doyle for helping us out with this whole thing. Because, the show is fantastic. Man.
Absolutely.
There's a ton of people here. We're on here Saturday.
We missed the rain.
And
we missed the rain.
We missed the
Both
rain.
move in and hopefully exit.
Well,
Yeah.
Hopefully nothing tomorrow, but
bright
I
sunshiny
think we're wrong.
skies, wonderful temperature. So this is Chamber of
Nice
Commerce
for you.
Day, right?
Nice for you.
Nice for me because it was 2 weeks ago. It was 8 below, and the wind was blowing, and we had 8 inches of snow. I'm living in Iowa now.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
I left here 40 years. I moved out of here 3 years ago, and my friends in California still shake their head and go,
You're nuts.
What are you nuts?
But you're with your family, so we
I
all
am.
get
My
that.
granddaughter lives back there. That's why I went.
So we can move her too,
And now she's a very precocious 10, wants nothing to do with it.
So perfect. So you can come back.
It's okay.
You can come back.
Yeah. So we're out here at the fairgrounds having a great time.
You bet.
The Roadster Show, and so talk to you about your truck because we just went and looked at it. It's like, man, it's fantastic.
Well, thank you very much. Built that from Mark Diatley, and a customer came to me and wanted something different.
72 C10.
72
right?
C10, different.
And that's where the similarities to a 72 C10
stopped and ended.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much.
How do you build a C10 that nobody's built?
Yeah.
That's pretty tough.
Really custom built.
Really tough.
Yeah,
Have you done
especially now because it's been hot for so long.
Well, we went to Dino's Get Down and they had 3,500 trucks down there. It's got in
and
Phoenix.
2,800 of them were C10s.
Yeah.
No kidding. No kidding.
Crazy.
Wow.
Crazy.
How many? 8,800?
9,800 trucks sitting on the Glendale.
So pretty much all of them.
Yeah. Every walks of life. So
Well, I don't know.
It's hard to be different on something like
little
that.
tiny town where I live in, 90 people. My closest grocery store is 18 miles away. My neighbor that is also the mayor has 5 of them in his yard.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing all these?
Are they running? Are they running?
No. Like one of them runs, maybe.
He's still sitting on a gold mine right now. So
There's
so
a ton of them
they've gone
left.
to the
There's
roof.
just a
The
ton of them
lawn
left.
art.
Yeah.
Very good.
So the concept was to build a C10 that no one's built, right?
Yeah, and to build a C10 that you could buy today.
Okay.
I guess, he wanted a sports truck. He wanted something that had power. So it has the LT4, blown LT4. It has overdrive transmission. It has the bump stick. So it's kind of like his BMW has a bump stick. So it's quick shift and all that.
Did he ask for that?
Yeah. I mean, the requirements were pretty much left to me, but he did want it chopped. It had to be a 72, and it had to be black.
Okay.
What's unique about 72?
Unique about 72 is it's the uglier of the trucks, I think, compared to 67, 8, and 9s. The front end is heavier. It's bulkier. The hood stands straight up and down as opposed to the slope to it. So we went with that whole design saying, how do we make the boxy, bulky brick front end look sleek, sporty, and all that? So that's really where the whole truck started.
Okay.
So basically we cut from the dash forward off the truck.
Really?
And then started from scratch, moving things around, placing things where we wanted the spoilers, how we wanted the grill to look. And then we just started recreating.
So you actually, we read your description, you laid the nose of the hood
so we
back,
laid
right?
the nose of the hood back, peeked it out, pulled it way out because it's a lot more flatter from stock. One of the things that we wanted to do, because we've never seen it done before, is to make the hood open forward with the cowl attached to the back of the hood.
I saw that. I saw the connection.
That's
I saw it was all one
huge
piece.
feat to pull that off.
I bet.
So all custom-made hinges and all that to pull that off. Had to cut the firewall out of the truck, make a whole new firewall. We narrowed and moved the fenders in so that when the hood comes up, everything clears because
Okay.
it don't clear.
Right,
It just
right,
won't.
right.
So there's a lot of unique things that we had to do to pull it all together.
Yeah,
I mean,
the
it just
hinges.
wasn't.
How did you just play with them?
Yeah,
until
you
get
put it on a
right?
bench and you're like, okay, the first move has to go up.
Okay.
Yeah, right,
Okay,
right.
so how do we do that? Then from there it needs to go forward and out.
Right.
So you do, and you know.
So it's doing a compound move.
Yes.
Yeah,
right.
So with
Yeah.
that goes a lot of drinking, and
I bet.
And a lot of
a lot of
that didn't
cussing,
work,
and a lot of that didn't work.
Yeah,
And then of course,
yeah.
then once you start putting the weight to the hinge,
Yeah.
and you actually have a hood on it,
Yeah, now
it
you
changed
guys like,
again.
yeah,
So
no
now
doubt.
it didn't work again, and then it catches the door, and it catches the
Wow.
windshield, it catches the fender.
Nice.
So it's just moving and moving and moving and moving until you go, wow, it actually worked.
And you were doing it on the truck?
Well, as
opposed
we
to-
built it, so we built the fenders, we built the grill, we built all that. We did the hood last.
Okay.
So we had pocketed the firewall as a mock-up, left enough hinge space in there because we really didn't know where we were going with that, and then really just started moving it around. Keeping in mind we did the flush-mounted glass, we chopped the top 2 inches out
2
of
inches.
the A pillar, but then we took an inch out of the crown.
Okay.
And removed the whole rain gutter,
Right.
so
Yeah.
to speak, and all
Yeah.
that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
So smoothing it up, and then of course we did the inside too. So you're not chopping it once; you're chopping it twice.
Right.
So
Right.
it's twice the work.
It took
Yeah.
the rocker off. We saw all that.
Took the rocker,
Yeah.
added the rocker to the bottom of the door.
So you essentially eliminated the seam.
the seam and
Yeah,
all that
right.
stuff. And that was one of the things when we pulled up in front of the display. They put us on a black carpet in a black truck, and they said, "Where'd the truck go?"
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, no
you
kidding.
could have put a white carpet out for us, and you
Yeah.
didn't
Sure.
notice. So
Yeah.
and that's why when you get here, you got to tell the judges, "Hey, look, this is what we did," because the half of them didn't even
They
notice.
couldn't even spot it.
Didn't notice any of it.
So to back up just for a second, so you're based in Phoenix, North Phoenix,
Arizona.
Okay.
Yep.
And you've got how big is your team? And
So I'm in a 15,000 square foot shop. I've got 15 guys. We do
Wow.
everything in house: paint, body
Wow.
work. The only thing we don't do is upholstery. We
Okay.
sent that truck out to Stitch Works,
Okay.
nice.
and they did all that, which is flawless. I mean, they
Yeah.
did a
Right.
top-notch job.
Right.
I mean, we
Yeah.
asked for a high level of execution, and we wanted the feel of a new car. We didn't want the standard German weave. We didn't want the standard stuff that hot rodders and what I'm traditionally used to doing. I wanted something more modern, more flavor, but still had the feel of new.
Yeah.
So
and
tuck
that's-
and roll. There we go.
Yes, exactly. So
Yes.
oddly enough, there's not one screw in that interior.
Really?
Nothing screws on. Everything snaps together with magnets.
Wow.
How
Every
cool is
panel can
that?
come off. You just
Wow.
unsnap it and you move it around.
That's become a thing in interior work.
that's
huh?
great until you work in a fab shop.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then every magnet has rings of dust standing up on it. So then you chase
Sure, yeah. Oh, yeah. I know what you're
So you
talking
chase
about.
that forever, and it's like, well, that was great in the soft world, but now that we're over here in the fab shop, screwdrivers and stuff are sticking to it.
So do you do all the design work yourself? Do you have a couple of guys you want to
we
talk
had
about? Or anybody you want to mention?
Travis did some design work and all that for us, and we had some ideas we threw in, and they did some rendering work for us and all that, kind of pull it out, give us a start and direction. Rendering only gets you so far. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
we
kind
put
of
the-
gives you a visual
a
impact.
visual, and then
thing.
we're like, can we do it? Can we pull it off? And then you start down that road of nowhere going, well, that didn't work, that didn't work, that doesn't
This
look
is,
right
this
when
is
you actually
Travis
do it.
Highlander? What's his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
And so that truck concept started about 3.5, 4 years ago.
Okay.
Then we started ordering parts and pieces, so that the build time is about 3 years.
Okay.
So it's a 3-year build.
Yeah.
Roadster stop chassis, LT4, blown LT4, the 4L80 transmission, overdrive, all independent front and rear suspension. And he's going to drive the truck, so there's that. So
Yeah.
like some of the underside paneling for a show vehicle probably wouldn't be as, we didn't smooth everything out under the underside because he's going to drive it. So
Right,
it's all going
right.
to start and chipped up. So we did undercoat it, but we did clean. We panel fit everything. It's got belly pans and rocker covers and stuff to clean up and make things nice and tidy and all that stuff.
Okay.
All stainless, polished exhaust, all ARP. So nothing
Yeah.
like buying a $40,000 chassis, blowing it all apart, throwing all the hardware away, and say, "Hey, Bob, I need all this hardware." And then he goes, "Oh, well, you didn't throw away that bolt because we don't make that one."
Oh, okay.
So,
So
well, you can custom make it, but that gets
Right.
That's pricey,
time consuming
sure.
too.
and
Yeah.
very
Yeah,
expensive.
and expensive.
So,
Yeah.
yes.
I bet.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
bet.
Yeah.
Well, that's very funny. Well, we
That's very
appreciate
cool.
the donation because it probably paid for this.
Several times. Exactly. So,
But that's something that they do that not a lot of people know. It's like all they think about is stuff that's in the catalog.
Yes.
But in reality, you can say, well, I need this special bolt.
And
Like I know from some of the GM stuff that for like if your chassis is all roadster shop, but
it's still GM stuff. Some of the
Still
components.
GM
So
stuff.
it takes fine thread, it takes metric thread, and all that. You just got to
Right.
call them and say, hey, do you have this? Well, not in the catalog, but we can get it.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
So we were looking at the truck, and you have these panels that fold up in the bed so that you can see the,
Yes.
the underneath
And
stuff.
That was difficult. That the customer really gave me most leeway. He didn't really ask or put his 2 cents. He's just like, look, you're the builder. I want you to.
So
figure
what is
this
that
out."
material? Because it has a unique look to it.
Well, let's start with how I came up with the idea, because it's like you could put a bed that just flips up like everybody, and it looks like
Right.
a wing out the back, which I don't particularly care for. You
Yeah.
do it sideways, or you do this, or how do you access that? Because we have batteries under there, we have chargers under there, so we needed something to get into it anyway. But
Okay.
how do you do it? So I was actually cleaning my room for Brian to come and visit me, and I throwing stuff in the closet, and I have bifold doors.
Okay.
That's where it hit me, and I'm like,
Okay.
wow, if I could do that somehow in the back of that truck, that would really help.
Oh yeah.
So for lack of a description here, basically they flat. There's a series of them. How many?
Yeah,
6 or so.
Whatever. It's like planks of like a plank of wood.
Right.
And they kind of
They
teepee.
hinge.
And the,
they teepee
the
up.
center TP up, and they all bifold together in the
Yes,
center.
and they all
Yeah.
come together.
So
Yeah,
it's
very
removable
good.
too?
No, well, no, because it's
Okay.
all on tracks and
It's on
runners,
tracks.
all on.
Okay.
It's all on rams.
But it gives you access to everything.
Everything
you can see
underneath
inside.
and-
You can see where the
exactly.
exhaust
Okay.
flows, and,
All right.
and you can see the.
So we're
union.
looking at it, and this guy
Yeah.
walks up and said, "Those look like what do you call it?
Solar panels.
Solar panels.
Yeah.
Solar panels. You get that a lot. I
We
guess,
get
yeah?
that a lot. We didn't want that look, but we were trying to do something uniquely different. So what that actually is, it's honeycomb from aerospace. It's
Yeah,
it
it's
looks
the
like it.
honeycomb between
Yes.
the two
I could see that.
panels.
Okay.
Of air,
Looks
Okay.
like-
So I thought it was very cool.
Yeah, and it has a
gives
cool
it
look,
strength.
and it gives a lot of strength, and it gives it a cool look because every time you look, it changes
It
angles.
changes the
and-
angles.
and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then we made pans, we put that in there, then we did all the acrylic glass, and then we made framing and all that, and then hinged it all together and bolted all in just like wood planks, and it's all on rams. So you just push a button and it all folds up, and then it all folds closed.
Nice.
So it's simple and clean, and then we did a lot of that acrylic stuff. So if you notice in the grill, that Chevrolet lights up. So it's all backlit in
Okay.
that Chevrolet. You don't really notice it when you turn the switch off and the light's not there. You can read Chevrolet, but it's just like a dusting. When you turn the light on, man, it just jumps out right at you.
Wow.
Same thing under the seat. It says C10 redefined. That all backlights, everything under the dash backlit, and all that new car stuff. You know,
Right.
trying
And
to
this
make
was-
it feel.
Yeah.
And this was a rapid development kind of thing. What's the name of it? What do they call that stuff? Where they computer generated?
Yeah. So when we
Oh,
did
like
that,
the prototyping stuff.
Yeah.
yeah, we didn't do any of that. We're not.
But you're
that
just talking like
state-of-the-art.
lights and tail lights. You mentioned they were where they built computer 3D,
So
3D
my son
modeling.
does my son does
3D modeling.
3D modeling. And
Okay.
all
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
So
yeah.
my son's
That's what I was-
18. He doesn't.
that's where I was
care about
going.
anything with
Anyway.
cars.
Okay.
Yeah.
However, if I can trick him into like, hey, just can you do something like this? Oh yeah, piece of cake. And he comes down in 5 minutes and goes, here, this is what you want. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, what's that for my car? He's like, I don't want to work on cars.
He thought
He's an engineer. He thought it was something cool.
It was
you know?
cool. I was
What does he do? He's an engineer for.
Well,
for
he's
what?
18. He's going to be going to school for mechanical engineering.
Oh,
and
very
stuff,
nice.
and
Excellent.
he's
Very nice.
learning all SolidWorks and all that stuff. So great
right.
asset to me because I just kick him all kinds of stuff and then I take
That's
it
right.
3D printed. So like
Sure.
that's how the turn signals all came in, like everything in the fairing, the face plates on all the dash and all that's all 3D printed stuff in our
Nice.
shop. So we have a
Very
3D
cool.
printer. We print all
Yeah.
that stuff. Then the grilling, it was actually just water jet, and we cleaned it all up. And then a buddy of mine did
Nice.
the acrylic letters, and we popped them all pushed through in the back, and then sanded it all smooth and all that stuff. So hours and hours and hours of work of
Yeah.
making all that fit.
So it took
Right.
4 years to build this truck.
3.5, well,
3
4
years,
year,
yeah.
a year of
Development.
gathering
Sure,
parts and pieces
sure.
and
Right,
planning, and then
right.
3 years actual build time.
Right.
Wow.
So Dean and Sons, not in the future, huh?
No, he just wants the building. So I do own my building.
Okay, there
I've
you
been
go.
in business for 23 and a half years now
Nice.
and been blessed with a lot of great builds and a lot of
Nice.
great clients and meeting a lot of wonderful people along the way. And
I meant to ask you, have you done a C10 like this before? Have you done
yeah,
any
so
C10s?
I did a C10 when the C10s weren't even cool. Back in 08, I did I debuted another mark. I built for Mark Bosak a C10 and took it to Detroit, and we made the grade 8 with it.
Oh, excellent.
So
Wow.
that was, and
That's
that's
impressive.
before
That's
C10s were
impressive.
popular.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
You know, and then
Yeah.
if I would have known then, I would have buying them all then. 'cause
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
yeah.
guy's got a yard full of them.
So yeah, in
And
08,
unfortunately, Iowa is the land of the missing rocker panels, so it's difficult to find one that's not all rusted out.
so in 08 we did that, and then in I think 08 we also won World's Most Beautiful Custom in Sacramento with a Mercury for Tom.
Excellent.
For the 51.
Really?
So yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So we've been around quite a while, but we're
I
quietly just pecking away, doing our thing.
Yeah,
And
that's
so-
great.
So you're not a truck necessarily builder. This
I'm
is
all
just
over the
one
board.
so you can do a little bit of
so
everything.
like in my shop right now, I love 30s cars. If I had my choice, I'd be all 30 shopping.
Okay.
And then one time it was you would walk in my shop and it was everything 40s and older.
Okay.
But that's kind of going away, and now
Yeah.
so I get into the muscle cars, which I enjoy. So we have muscle cars, pro touring cars, trucks, A-Team van we're doing.
Okay.
We have a 33 three-window coupe. We build cars for John Mumford, so he's got a couple that I've done blown
Nice.
Arden type stuff, which
Yeah.
I love that type stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice.
29 Roadster. We have station wagons, so I keep my guys busy.
Yeah.
It's easier to build the same car over and over.
Right.
It's not as much fun.
But it's not
No,
as much
not
fun.
nearly.
Yeah. After about
Not
the
nearly.
third one, it gets
the same old thing. So
everybody's just like, yeah, and now there's even.
What are you building for muscle cars?
Now it's at epic
It's- oh,
proportion.
yeah,
You go
absolutely.
look at that J2000 and it's mind-scattering.
epic.
Stainless
It's-
cave
Oh,
frame
not
cage.
cage, the whole
he sent-
The whole
chassis.
thing's all stainless.
He sent me a picture that his
And go
wife
look,
took.
there's not one
it's beautiful.
bubble in the welds. They're all
No.
smooth. It's unbelievable.
So he ground it all down, polished it, and after about a day and a half of doing it straight through to get it finished, there was his wife took a picture of him. He looked like somebody from the moon, like an alien. He was just whacked out. His eyes were this big, and he was just like, just got to get it done.
Incredible
that's
that they're at home. doing
yeah.
that.
And then when he finishes that car, he's going to build this thing to go around the world.
Oh, yeah,
the tank thing.
Earth orbiter. No,
the orbiter, whatever.
Surface orbiter.
Yeah.
Surface orbiter.
He's going to go in the ocean.
I heard
he's going to
that-
go all over the world. With this thing, right?
I heard the dog left, though.
he takes
They got up on a beach and the
He
dog.
told me the story. It's just, and the crazy part about it is I have to
All of
cross
it, a way to connect to what was going on and what the vibe was and
Yeah.
what was new and what was hip and
Yeah.
what was cool. And the pages took what was obviously like that car stands on its own. It never needed to be in a magazine. It's insanity. You're looking at photos of it. It's like, it's superstar. And same with Scotty,
Yeah.
and Matt and Debbie, and all that, and Mark Grimes and
Grimes.
Dobbert and everybody.
All those guys,
So you made them. Actually, their hard work made them the superstar, but you were a magnifying glass.
Yeah.
You took what was done in.
So muscle cars, we got a 70 Super B. We have a Nova. We do a lot of Tri-5, so we have 55, 56s and all that. We have 65 Chevelle. Right now, I think complete builds, there's 18 of them.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot going on.
So if you do a complete build for someone and they're relatively local, are you married to the car for the rest of its life?
Well, I find myself married to it regardless if they're local or not.
I bet.
But
Yeah,
and I'm okay with that. I mean, they're great clients, so it's like if they're trading me out. So I do a lot of work for Tim Bumgarner out of Minnesota. So he trades me a car, brings me a car, I send him a car.
Okay.
So things are moving, always in transit. We're always building new things, so that's fun.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't mind that.
Yeah.
They do get stuck there because they seem to go on vacation a lot. you
Yeah.
know. Hey, when you come back to pick up your car? Well, I'm on vacation. Okay, well,
There you go.
you're always on vacation.
You're
Well, I'm
always on
retired. Yeah, well.
Every day is Saturday, right? When you're retired.
That's
yeah.
very funny. How'd you get into it?
You know, I out of high school, I knew I was a car guy, and my dad did aerospace, and that's where my fabrication skills came from and all
Okay.
that. So I did really cool fabrication, but it was boring because I did the same thing over and over, so I hated it. But I got to learn a lot. Once I got out of that, I knew I wanted cars. I loved, when I was a little kid, I saw a 55 gasser.
Right.
And I'm originally from New York, and I saw that, and I was like, whatever that is, that's who I want to be.
Okay.
So that kind
Okay.
of got hooked on at a young age, and nobody in my family was a car person, so kind of graduated from school, went to UTI, we got into the heavy line tech at Peachtree Chrysler Plymouth, and I did that for when I was probably 19 to 27.
Okay.
And I busted my ass and worked 100 hours a week and made
Yeah.
a lot of money, and I was like, man, this is going to make me an old man in a hurry.
Yeah.
And on the side, I did my own cars because I thought that's what you did. You know, I built my own cars, Novas and Camaros and Chevelles and what have you. And then one of my friends was like, hey, you love building these cars. Why don't you go do it for people? And I'm like, what's that?
Yeah.
I was really
Sure.
picked up magazines and did all that, but I always thought the guy that was behind the book built his
built
car.
his own
How do
car.
I know what he wants?
Yeah.
That's how I looked at
and
it.
I think 50 years ago when we started, that was
The
pretty
norm.
much- It was the
Yeah.
norm, except for maybe the real high-end street rod guys.
Exactly.
And then everybody else did their own stuff. And then, but now it's all, I don't think it's necessarily turned upside down,
Yeah.
but it's there's more equity in terms of just people just going, this is what I want.
Yeah.
Well-
which is kind of nice because what we're doing is we're bringing people in from that aren't skilled,
Right.
but yet
Want
want
it.
to have a hot rod. Yeah, exactly.
So that was a returning point. So I kind of got involved in that, and then one thing led to another, and then I met Dick Magoo, who was a hot rod
Sure.
builder here
Sure.
in
Oh, yeah, you
California.
bet.
And he kind of took me under the wing, and we were just friends. And the real reason why we became friends is he was building a Mercury at the time, and he needed somebody to wire it,
Oh, okay.
and I needed to eat.
Okay. Okay.
So as
There
I
you
was going
go.
to school,
Sure.
I would leave school, go to his house. I'd work on his car. Him and Lois would feed me and take care of me like I was one of their own. And that's how the relationship started. That's before I even had Hot Rods by Dean. And I was just working for Arizona Street Rods there in Phoenix. And I ran Rod Shop for about 5-6 years or so. And as I just grew out of that, I was like, man, I just kind of felt the need to do something different. So I actually went to work for a guy in a private collection and did his cars exclusively for a little while. And then his wife wanted me to be profitable. I couldn't see how that was going to ever work out.
Yeah. how do you, with a car collection, how do you do that? Yeah.
you know, so I was like, well,
Where's
this-
the business model for that one?
Yeah,
Right?
no
So then, and at that time, I was married, thinking about having a kid, and my wife was doing very well at American Express, and I was out of a job, and I'm laying home, and 9/11 happened.
Oh boy.
Were you living in New York at the time?
Nope, I was in
You're in Phoenix.
Phoenix,
Where are you from in New York?
out on the island, Long Island. Long
Oh,
Long
I know-
Island.
I know the island. My
Lived
father
out
lived-
there for 16, 17 years, and then moved,
Yeah.
my family moved out to Arizona, and I love it. I
Yeah.
never shoveled. The
I
stuff
understand.
they did.
Yeah, me both. My father lived in
2 weeks ago, that's what I was doing.
My father lived in Sands Point, Port Washington.
yep.
So I know the area. So.
Yeah, love it out there, but
Yeah.
don't want to live there. So.
No, I get it.
So
I grew up
then
in-
it was 9/11 happened, and at that time I had Mark Bosag. He's the one that put me in business. Really, he kept asking me to build him the truck that I went to Detroit with.
Okay.
And he was on me to build something. He's like, "Look, just build it in your house. You got the talent. Just do it." And I'm like, "I don't have the space. I don't have the capacity. I don't have the equipment." He's like, "Look, build me the truck."
Yeah.
So that day I went to work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that
And see, I think that's another point that's worth talking about is people think, oh, the only way that you can build a car or a truck or that's that quality is with a big shop, which
No.
which you don't have to necessarily. You know,
No.
guys like Scott Sullivan. You know, I was shocked the first time I went to his place, and there's this little 2-car garage, and he's spitting cars out like this. I go, how
Yeah.
do you do this? And I learned
it's probably easier there because you don't have all the other crap in your way, getting in the way.
Right.
You can
But-
focus more.
Yeah, but I mean, it does make it easier with a nice big shop and all the
Well-
machines and everything else. But it's not necessarily. So that's how you started, right?
Yeah, in a 3-car garage at home. And I built that C-10, took it to Detroit, made the grade 8, which
Huge. That's a huge,
That put you
huge-
on the map,
yeah,
then.
huge
that
deal.
really put me on
yeah.
the map.
You
Well,
bet. You
it made me feel, because I look up at Troy and Alan Johnson and Bobby Alloway. I've looked at these guys forever, and I just don't think I'm that guy, and I never will be. I look at those guys and say, those are my guys, and then to go in and show myself that I could do it on that level and
Yeah.
get that, I was like,
Yeah.
I was blown away. And then to back it up with Tom's Merc and go to the, we're up against James Hatfield and his cars and Rick Doors and all these guys, and I show up with a Mercury and beat them. And all of a sudden, it was like, well, maybe I got some talent. Maybe I can do this.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the
Yeah.
eye opener for me when I realized, don't sell yourself short. You know,
Yeah.
put yourself
Yeah.
out there, do it. And I still am I build what I want in my style. I don't really care what everybody else
Yeah.
wants me to build, or
Yeah.
you got to build this, you got to build that. No, I'm going to do
That's-
me. And if you don't like
that-
it, I don't care.
That's
If you
along
like
the
it,
lines
that's
of
good.
what Troy said. You know, he says we don't really care what other people are doing.
Yeah.
We just do what we know what we like.
Right.
We think it looks good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who think that way, and I think that's what makes this all so much fun.
Yeah.
You know, and
I think it gives them vision
trying
too. I think it gives them vision when they can see the whole thing and pull it
Yes.
together
Yeah.
and drive to a goal. So yeah,
Yeah. So when people come to the shows, and someone was asking me one time about how does all this work, and I said, well, you go to the show because you look at 100 cars, and they're saying, isn't that boring? I go, no, because each car you're looking at some little detail. You go, oh, that's such a bitchin' idea.
Yeah.
And you never thought of it before. I'm gonna steal that idea. And it's like, music is the same way, right? I mean, everybody's influenced by somebody else, and all you do is take the influences from here and here and put it together. You know, it's like somebody asked me one time what my influences as a writer. It was at college, and I said Tom Wolfe, who did like the Bonfires of the Vanities and all those books, and Gray Baskerville, from Hot Rod Magazine. And they went, I know the first guy. Who's this other guy? I go, he's a staff writer for Hot Rod Magazine. He was in college. I go, what?
He was the style writer.
He was the style writer.
Not.
We would have copy editors that would come in and go, they're all apoplectic, right? They go, this is not a word. And I go, I know. I go,
But it sounds good.
But it sounds good, and it's incredibly descriptive.
Yeah.
And she would say, well, yeah, I'll give you that, but it's not a real word. I go, well, who says you have to? She goes, well, it's not in the API style guide. And I go, so?
And that's how
I
cars
said,
are.
If it works
probably
hard
a
enough,
win.
I said, you will eventually see it in the dictionary because people pick it up and go, that's such a bitchin' word, right? We're going to put it in the dictionary.
And that's what I like about cars, because when people says you can't build that, I can't do it, like the hood on the C-10. You can't do that because you can't open it.
Right.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
Right.
And then,
They
but someone's got to write that
check
check because it's not easy to get there, but you figure it out.
So how many iterations of that hinge do you think you did?
I don't want to say.
Because
I got a trash can full of parts. How's that?
Yep, exactly. So did you think about maybe making a model and doing it that way, or it's just easier to work full size?
Well, we started with everybody's billet hinges that don't work anyway, not being mean, and we put them in, and we like, okay, if we change this arm, we change that arm. And the length is what got us in trouble, because obviously you add the cowl to the back of the hood and have to extend it at 6 inches.
Gets
Now all of a
heavy.
sudden that weight out here
Leverage way
is
out there.
way different.
Oh,
and I'm like, well, nobody's hinges are going to work because of what we're doing.
Yeah.
And then we tried doubling them up, and then you got to the point where, you can, like the old Chevys, you pull the hood down, it folds in half.
Yep.
Oh,
We had
yeah.
a couple of those
Oh, you
almost
bet.
situations.
Oh, no question.
So you start to realize, like,
Yeah.
what you're doing
There's
is
gonna
not
be some
very
engineering
easy.
gonna be in
Yeah,
this
so
thing. Yeah, exactly.
It was
Yeah.
so it took a lot to achieve all that.
Yeah, because you said it has to come up and out at the same time.
Yeah. Up and forward and out.
Just
that's what I
enough
meant,
to
yeah.
clear the fenders
Right.
and the door and the.
Well, you've got the
A-pillar.
cowl all
All of
integrated
it.
into the hood, so
Yeah.
there's it's your edges in the back are
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
minuscule.
that coming out of a.
Yeah, it's got to come out of the
3-point
hole.
area.
Yeah, it's got to come out of the hole.
And,
So yeah,
and unfortunately, that when someone goes out and looks at it out on the floor at the show, you
They don't
don't
even
really
notice it.
see that.
Right.
Yeah.
They go, well, doesn't all the trucks look like that?
Yeah.
And that's when that's when I feel like it did the right thing. Because if it just looks
Yeah.
simple, you want that guy to go home and go, well, that truck had it. Why can't I do that?
How tough can it
Yeah,
be,
no
right?
Go
And
ahead.
then he-
Yeah, no
'cause
Knock
I-
yourself
Yeah,
out.
exactly. Because I've been there. I've tried to play with that stuff, and it's like I spent about a couple hours on it and go, if I spent a lifetime, I could probably figure this out. That's like the whole monkey thing in War and Peace, right? You put enough monkeys in a room with a bunch of typewriters, somebody will write War and Peace. Might be 2 millennium before that happened. Yeah.
And that was one of the other things that we wanted to do about the truck, was to make sure that what we did, you couldn't just walk over and go, oh, well, they did that and they did that. There's so many subtle touches
Right.
on that
Yeah.
truck
oh yeah, it's very
that
clear.
you've walked
It's
by
very
it 10
clear.
times and see 10 different things.
And isn't that really the essence of this whole show?
Yes.
Is I want to do something no one else has done, and I want to do it in such a way that
It's very subtle.
You have to really study
You bet.
this thing to figure it out. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
And which
how many
means
years-
that most of the people that are out there walking around
Don't even
they're-
know it.
Don't have so lost.
No, they have the same truck.
Yeah.
How many
I got
times
that
have you-
truck at home.
Hey, how
no,
many
you
times have you
don't. You don't have that truck.
I have
I'm
a
sorry,
72
but you
C10
don't.
just like that
Yeah,
one.
You've got a truck at home with the same emblem in the grill. That you've got that,
And
but
maybe
nothing
and
else.
maybe not because his son made that one.
That's true. Sorry, no, you don't have anything that's
You
on
don't
this
have
truck.
anything. How many years you been coming to the show?
Geez, I've had my spot behind Roy Brizio, I want to say 17 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
There you
So,
go.
and I made it. I told myself 17.
You don't look old enough to be.
Well,
on
that's
that
good.
show.
Let's
17
keep it
years.
that way. So I told myself, and this is a thing I did for myself when I started coming here, because I have a lot of peers, and I do see the same cars coming to the show year after year, and it's like, I don't want to be that guy. So I told myself, and the shop and everybody, we never come to this show with the same car.
Okay.
good.
All right. Yeah.
So-
No tap.
So you've always got something new.
So I always bring in my booth a new car, and I have for 17 years.
Oh wow.
Well, it sounds like you got a lot of fodder to work with there. You got a lot of cars you
Yeah.
can bring. And
Yeah.
I'm sure guys are, if you've built their cars before, I'm sure they're more than happy to have it honored by coming here.
Yeah.
That's got to be a big
Yeah.
deal.
And we do some cars for people that aren't honored. They want to hide them. They just want to go in their collection and not see them. So we do some
Sure.
of that too, which is frustrating. And I've kind of tried to back away from that a little bit because
Yeah, I guess that would be like being a painter and have the guy buy your painting and put it in his living room and no one ever sees it but him. Yeah.
it's kind of frustrating. And then he doesn't want it out there, doesn't want the magazines to shoot it and all that. And I'm like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So we put our hearts and soul into these cars.
Oh, yeah.
And to let some of them go, some of them were happy to get rid of them. Let's be honest. And other ones were like, we have so much into this.
Sure.
It's part of me.
Yeah.
And now it goes away. And it's like, and it may go to Florida or wherever, and you're never going to see it again.
Has there ever been like a cursed car?
Yeah, unfortunately.
I'm sure.
And it's like,
Any stories out of that? Like, it just wants to be like it's cursed?
I don't want to say cursed, but it's like that one car that you thought it was a really killer car, and everything that could go wrong has gone wrong, and to this day it's still the same way.
Okay.
And it's right down to simple connecting rods breaking and stuff. It's like, are you kidding me? This is a
big
crate
stuff.
motor.
Yep.
How could that?
Yep.
This doesn't happen on anybody's watch, but it's
Right.
happened to this car.
Happened to me.
Yeah, exactly. And that's actually a 40 Ford. So this is a true story. I mean, we started with a crate small block Chevy from GM. We get it. We put it in the car. We build the whole car. Beautiful car. Build it for Bob, and it was a wonderful car. We go to start it. We couldn't get it running. I mean, everything we did, we couldn't get it running. So now we take a polished, beautiful, painted,
Right.
and we start dissecting and pulling the motor down. And it's
Yeah,
like we
yeah.
haven't left the garage, and this thing does not run. Crate motor from GM.
Yeah.
Nothing trick.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't.
Sure.
The end of the day, the intake from the factory when it was sandcasted was plugged,
Really?
packed full of sand.
Packed full of sand.
We
my
added
God.
fuel to it, so as soon as fuel got in there, it took that sand and made it concrete.
Oh, you bet.
So we took punches and everything, and we're hitting it with the hammers as hard as we could, and it would not come out.
Wow.
So then, of course, and it was dumb luck how I found it. We laid after having all the parts and pieces, we laid the intake on the bench,
bench.
and walking around, we're looking at this, we're expecting valve train push rods bent.
Yeah.
We're looking
Did
at
it seem
something.
heavier than usual?
No, I mean, you really could tell, and it was in the way and the fact of the runner. It was down inside the runner. So when I happened to walk by the bench, and I'm like, looked like a rag was stuffed down there.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you kidding me? You guys put this thing. I'm blaming the guys,
Sure,
I'm like,
yeah.
you stuffed a rag down in there and you forgot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, that's not moving. And I get
So
up, give
it's-
me a punch, and then we called GM and like, oh yeah, we had a run of those motors that we had some problems, and when they go across the vibrating table.
It
From the
didn't shake
factory, it
out.
didn't shake out. It got locked in there. Then we added fuel, and then it made it concrete. Now you're not getting it.
Oh, my God.
Stuff like that. Well, that was that motor. Then, of course, 6 months later, connecting rod fails on it, and I'm like, then the transmission goes out. Then light bulb falls out of the shop ceiling onto the top. All this happens to the same car, and I'm
Really?
like,
Wow.
there's
It
just
was cursed.
Yeah,
It was
I'm like,
cursed. Yeah.
I'm trying
Yeah.
to deliver a car, and it won't go away.
It doesn't want to leave the shop. It doesn't want to leave the shop.
I'm surprised it didn't pull the sand down into the motor. Some of it.
Well, we asked,
Some
and that was
debris.
we asked GM, and they're like, "Hey, we'll give you a new intake, and warranty stuff, whatever." And off we went, and
Wow.
I don't know.
Yeah, you
what
would
it's-
not expect that,
No,
though.
but it's
Come on.
stuff that you would never.
I've seen
look
some
for.
weird stuff. I've never heard that one. That's a new one. That's a new one. Wow.
So it's just
But you can see how that could happen.
Yeah.
But you'd think somebody, when they were putting the motor together, would go, seems a little heavier
Yeah,
than
no
normal.
kidding.
well, again, it was just the two runners, the center two runners, and
Okay.
it's like,
Yeah.
how much would you really?
Casting sand just didn't fall out.
Yeah,
That's
it just
amazing.
didn't fall out.
Wow.
So that's just one of
Wow.
the crazy stories of thousands I could tell you.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Well, if you build that many, how many cars do you think you've built?
We were talking about that last year. I think I'm pushing 70.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the odds are not in
Yeah,
your favor.
right.
It's going to
No, it's going to
happen.
catch up.
It's going to happen.
And
right.
and that's the cool thing. We've done Mercuries, we've done trucks, we've done roadsters, we've done hot rods, we've done sports cars.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we've done all over the board. So I feel very fortunate to have that
bet.
many cars under my
Yeah.
belt in 20 some odd years.
Yeah.
And that's about 5,
Yeah.
6 cars a year. And
Yeah, that's great.
It's pretty cool.
And you got how many people working for you? About 15?
There's
said?
15 of us.
That's a lot. That's a big crew.
That's a lot.
It's
yeah.
especially
yeah.
on payroll. Yeah.
Sure. And most of these guys have been with you for a long time?
Yeah, they kind of come and go. It's hard, but I mean, I have 2-3 guys that have been with me. Well, Ron's been with me since day one, so I do
Okay.
have one guy that's been with me since day one, and he's somewhat retired, and he comes in and works on core supports, and so I have a product line, and one of the things I sell is the Tri-5 Chevy core support systems.
Okay.
Drop in, pull yours out, drop ours in,
Oh,
cross
so
flows.
for a bigger radiator and all that good stuff. And it's a
all
lot
that.
stronger.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
the whole Comes with radiator condensers. You can get it with a tranny cooler, overflow tanks, LSs,
Nice.
whatever.
Perfect.
So it's a
Nice.
complete kit.
Yeah, yeah.
And Ron comes in and he puts those together, and that's what he does because that's
Okay.
my payback to him. He retired 4 times, and I guess apparently his wife.
Good.
His
Don't
wife
you have
thinks-
somewhere to go?
His
Yeah,
wife
don't
thinks
you have
he's in the
somewhere to
way,
go?
so
Yeah.
he comes and visits me on Monday.
Is there a popular drivetrain that is used more often by you guys or not?
LSs. I mean, I hate
Yeah,
to say that,
still LS.
but the good thing about it is, shut the hood, drive it.
Yeah, yeah.
No, not
And for the
LT1,
guy-
Rock solid,
LT
makes good power.
Yeah.
So do you normally do like a connect and cruise kind of thing? Is that what you do?
We do a lot of that. Like I have 2 going in cars right now. One
Yeah.
in a Nova and
Yeah.
one in a '65 Chevelle.
Who do you get your stuff from normally?
GM Performance Center or one of the dealers right.
One of the local dealers?
One of the local dealers for me.
Because
yeah.
I'm working with, because I live in Iowa now, I'm working with a company called Carl's Kustoms.
Okay.
And they are a performance outlet in Des Moines.
okay.
And they want to step up. So I was just curious how
All right, well.
where you go with
Oh, yeah, you
because
have
they.
to tell me what happened with that whole deal.
Yeah, it's actually it's in the process right now.
Yeah,
They want to step
yeah.
their game up,
Sure.
and they've asked me to help them. And it's interesting because they're asking a lot of questions, and it's just on the ground floor of this
Right,
whole thing. In fact, the first meeting we had, it was kind of interesting. They're laying all this thing out, and I originally went there. I contacted them and said, I want to kind of worm my way into your engine.
Right.
I'm an engine guy, and so we talked for maybe 10 minutes, and they said, yeah, that's not a problem. It's like and I was sweating this thing, because. It's expensive to run a dyno and freelance. You don't, right? I could pay for the dyno time. I didn't make any money.
Right.
So it's a poor business model. So and they're like 10 minutes in, they go, I don't think this will be a problem. We could probably handle it. And I was like, well, that was easy.
Yeah.
And they go, that's not what we want to talk to you about. Okay. And they flipped this whole thing on me.
Nice.
And I'm there for like 2 hours doing this big tour of this place. It's a huge facility. It's very, very nice. All very professional.
It's a dealership?
No, well, this is separate from the dealership. So it's
Okay.
like they used to call it the Performance Center. Now it's called Carl Kustoms with a K.
Okay.
Okay.
And they do engine builds. They do their own machine shop. They have their own body shop. It's like your
Yeah,
facility,
yeah.
except they'll build the engine. They'll
Engine
do
build,
everything.
yeah.
They're building Carl Moyer a custom car right now. It's a nice street rod, like it's a 40 Ford. And so they get all done with this whole thing, and they said, "We want you to help us." And I thought, "This is a full-time job."
Yeah.
And that's not really what I want to do.
Right.
But I want to help you.
Be
so that's
careful
in
what
the
you wish
process.
for.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah.
And
no
then
kidding.
so then
You
I
may
met
just
their,
get it.
I met the most important guy, which was their parts manager, right? Because now I've got to, so
They can get your
I
parts
always have parts questions, right? And now I can go right to the top and talk to him
Get
and
answers,
and
right.
get the real answers. So yeah, it's great. So I was just curious because I think that's a very popular thing that a lot
It is,
of
and
street
now we're moving into the
builders.
LT4 stuff and
That's what I
all
was
that
gonna
because
say.
that's what's on
I saw
the
that
hood
in
of
the
the
truck.
truck. Yeah,
Right.
LT4. Hardest part is making them look like an old engine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
exactly.
I like old engines,
Uh-huh.
so they look cool. They have style. They have
Yeah.
creativity. You
Looks
can
great.
build stuff. Now we just have to. We have to just work harder to make them look cool.
Right. It's LT4 especially because the whole top of it's like a brick on
Yes,
top of the
it
engine.
is.
Well, it's a
hard.
waffle iron.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. It is. Anybody use the LT1? Is that at all used? Is that
Yeah,
kind of
I mean,
been
that's-
stepped over?
Yeah, kind of stepped over. Actually, I have a LT1 going in my personal 65 Chevelle. So I
Okay.
actually I did
Chevelle.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
I feel like
65. I've got a 65 too.
Yeah.
So,
I should
yeah,
have
yeah.
to leave.
In fact, I just bought it. I just bought an LS7, a wet sump LS7
Okay.
for my 65
All right.
because it's got a Lingenfelder 420-inch motor that he built for me in 1993. I have raced the snot out of this
So
thing.
you got to work harder at it.
Yeah,
it should be broke by now.
Well, yeah, and it's an absolute anvil. So, have you ever heard of the Silver State Classic
Yeah,
in Arizona?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
there was a separate race that was run. It was called the Pony Express.
Okay.
I did the Pony Express twice in my car.
Nice.
Went 168 miles an hour in a 65 Chevelle. And at that point, I can tell you, they try to fly.
Yeah, they
We had
get a
this-
little squirrely.
Oh boy! So I had this big cow catcher in the front and blocked off all the air in
Yeah.
the radiator, and I had over 300 degrees oil temperature with an oil cooler, with
Oh,
with
nice.
a killer Earl's oil
I've
cooler,
been there,
and
done-
it didn't
yeah.
even slow it down. I mean, the oil temperature just going like this. And but the whole reason I was there because you race for a class, so like I was in the 150 mile an hour class, and I didn't have a navigator.
Right.
So I get at the end, and I get out of the car, I'm sweating like crazy, and the clutch pedal went away. I had no
Yes.
clutch at the end because the rod unscrewed itself and dropped out somewhere in the middle of the race. And I get into the pits, and
They have
somebody goes,
Loctite for that, by the way.
They do.
Yeah.
But this is the stuff that you learn when you do it
He
one
needs
time.
a case of it.
And somebody says, "Man, your car's leaking like crazy." I look under there. I had changed the oil pan on the motor, and when I changed the oil pan, I didn't use the previous oil pan had a copper washer. And this one had a fiber washer. And I didn't catch it, and it melted.
Yeah,
and
I bet.
then the drain plug started to work its way out, and it was 3/4 of the way out when I got
Nice.
to the finish line. So if I'd have been at the top
Yep.
speed at 168 and the oil plug had come out, 7 quarts of oil,
Yep. Now, yeah,
I'd
fine.
still be spinning, right?
Olymp-
That was
That's right.
about 15 years ago.
Olympic-
So yeah,
I'd still be
so I
spinning.
did some Bonneville racing too.
Did you?
So I did Bonneville in a '55 Chevy. I don't know
Okay.
if you guys ever saw that. So
No.
I
I
did
think so. I'll have to check
Sidney
that out.
Allen, the
Okay.
first. Sidney Allen out of Longview, Texas, came to me and asked me to asked me if I ever went Bonneville racing. I'm like, no, but I'd love to go do that.
Yeah.
He goes, well, what would you use? And I'm like, well, a '55 Chevy.
Most
that-
most
wouldn't that-
aerodynamic, most aerodynamic you could find.
Wouldn't that make the most sense?
Yes.
So that's what we did.
Yeah.
So we took an SB2, made about 1,100 horsepower.
Wow.
Naturally aspirated, no blowers, no nitros, no nothing.
Wow.
Put it in a 55
How hard did you
Chevy.
spin that thing?
About 7,300.
Really?
And we went.
That's all? I would have.
We went one
How
night.
big was it?
347. It's 347 inch small block.
Really?
Wow.
And we went 198.65. And Bob
In
Johnson.
a 55 Chevy.
And Bob Johnson bought the car from us, and he went 202, I think.
Really?
Wow.
Stock bodied 55 Chevy.
Stock body 55 Chevy.
And the car weighed 5,300 pounds.
Woo! Well, free downforce.
Yeah.
Have you people on the road
We didn't
still-
know that.
No, okay. Oh, well, you were lucky because
Because back to
that's-
that flying thing?
Yeah.
55s do that really. I was like 80.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So
So
I
who-
had a 55 Chevy when I was in high school. No front bumper or anything.
Yeah.
And about 100 miles an hour, it's like, this is not right. I'm going down this because the beauty of Iowa is all the roads are just flat and straight. It's like Bonneville with concrete, and I'm out there.
there's
with
snow on
a
those
with a
roads,
410
yes.
gear,
Yes,
spin
there
this thing
is.
about 6,800 RPM. Little
Isn't that
302, 283, and it's like the steering got real light. First time I'd ever experienced that. And I go, this is not good.
That's not
Let's
fun.
just slow down a little bit. Try to get some steering input back into it.
So
So
that
you
was-
guys
we-
went how fast?
198,657.
crazy.
And it took
That's
us,
crazy.
the first. It was a learning experience for us because I'd done
bet.
drag racing and all that, and Bonneville was just a totally unique experience, especially trying to do it in a 55.
Yeah.
So when we showed up, we took it to dry legs first, not knowing anything about anything, and we wanted to test and tune before we went all the way to Bonneville.
Right.
So the guys were like, "Hey, just take it down to dry lakes and see what you do." So
Yeah.
we show up, rookies, we don't know nothing. I
Yeah,
mean, come
sure.
on.
Yeah.
And we show up, we get up the line, and the guy's like, "Okay, how fast are you going to go?" And we're like, 175. And they laughed at it. They- just like that. They laughed at us, and they go, "You're going to do what?" And we're
Yeah.
like, "We're going to go down there and go 175. And they're like, "Yeah, go ahead." We went 175.
Did you really?
There you go.
First time out of the box.
And how long was the course? 2 miles?
I think that was a 2-mile course.
Is this El Mirage?
El Mirage,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Or the 5 mile. I don't know what it was at the time. It was a blur. I would tell you,
I've never raced
we
it, so I
made
don't
we
know.
made the one pass. They told us not,
No, come back.
not to do that because we thought you were joking and we weren't.
No.
And then it was such a mess, the dirt and the dust.
Oh, yeah.
And we
It's
took
a-
a brand
yeah.
new car and we.
Had to blow it apart.
It was a
right?
mess.
Yeah.
So this is before we found out about how bad Bonneville was.
Yeah.
with salt, but- So we took
Yeah,
it
that's a
home.
whole
It's
another
not better.
problem.
It's not better.
We knew
Yeah.
the car was then capable, so then
Sure.
we went back to Bonneville. By the time we hit Bonneville, everybody knew us.
Yeah.
On one
Wow.
pass.
I bet.
on the dry
One
lane.
pass. Wow.
I bet.
It was
Because-
pretty cool.
For some basics, did you do any aerodynamic?
We had a lower spoiler. It was sitting on an Art Morrison custom-made chassis. We had a 6-speed manual in it, and
And did you block the grill off?
no,
You didn't?
no,
I mean, that's
yeah,
Man.
a lot of frontal.
wow.
Yeah,
And it's
Because-
not, and it can't
because
get
for
out,
the-
and
for
it
the-
can't get out.
yeah,
Yeah.
Well, no, it stacks up.
Yes, it does.
Well, yeah, it
Yes, it
stacks
does.
up and then it picks the front end up.
Yeah.
So what saved you was the fact it was so heavy.
Well, and not at first.
Okay.
So we kept wondering why at like 130. 175 it was, and then we started spinning at Bonneville at 130, 140.
Okay.
And
Wow.
we're like, how do we do it? And a lot of great guys out there.
Yes.
We met Art Chrisman, matter of fact, was one of
Oh,
my
yeah.
heroes. And
Yeah.
Sure.
when we were standing there, he goes, "What are you trying to do with this car?" And I go, "Art," I said, "we're going 200." And he goes, "If you go 180, I'll be at the top standing there shaking your hand." Well, the weekend we went 194. It took us 6 years to get to the 198.
Okay.
From 175 to the
Yeah.
200 pusher was
Okay.
Few
a
weeks.
lot of
That's a
lot
oh,
of
boy.
pain.
I bet.
A lot of pain. And he was standing there when I ran that pass. I got out of I took my helmet off, and he was standing there. I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" He's like, I told you, I'm a man of my word." And he goes, "I cannot believe what you just did." And I go, "There's more in it." I said, "There's more in it."
Wow.
And it was the factor of weight. We started adding so much weight.
Weight
I
to
mean, we added 1,000 pounds thinking that's too much.
Right.
And we went and added another 500-600 pounds.
Yeah,
I mean, so it
yeah.
was like, and the more we added, the faster we went. And I'm like, from drag racing, I'm
Yeah,
like, this
that
makes
doesn't make any
no
sense. The wrong
sense.
direction.
But what it is,
Wow.
because A, you're racing on salt,
And
but
you-
B,
yeah.
more importantly, it
Footprint
takes,
is that big.
Yeah, you bet.
exactly. And
bet.
and so all that's it's free downforce, because if you put a wing on it or something that'll add downforce, that's drag, it slows you down. So
So the hardest, the learning that we got at the class we were in was stock unmodified.
Okay.
And the record in that was against Camaros and all that, which the record was like 230, 240.
Wow,
We were
okay.
never going to achieve it. So
No,
we're looking through the rule book. We could have changed 3 classes and got 3 records.
Okay.
Wow.
Because there were other classes we could have been in at 170.
Yeah, it's like a classic class or something
Yeah,
like that, I
so
think.
classic
Yeah,
gas coupe
yeah,
is what
yeah,
we were in.
yeah.
So
Wow.
that was a 230 mile an hour. At the 230, 234, and I think it's 240 now. Where that car's never going to go. I don't care if
Yeah,
you throw it out of
yeah.
a spaceship. It's not
Yep,
going
yep, Wow.
240, 250.
I remember talking to Mill Rosenbaum from Spectre about my Chevelle.
Oh, yeah?
And I said, yeah, my car's kind of a brick. And he goes, no, your car's not a brick. Your car is the crinkly end of a Thomas's English muffin. It's such a great line, which is absolutely true. 'Cause my car had the drip rails.
Yeah.
I don't know, did your car still have the drip
Yeah.
rails on it? Oh, and then the back window kicks in about this far. So it was like these little parachutes on the seat pillar.
Just pulling
and it's
air,
like,
yeah.
you know, so I put tape on I just taped over the drip rails, and I was going to build fairings to come out to the edge, but I never got around to that, and block off 90% of the air to the grill,
Crazy.
and it still picked the front end up. And
Yeah.
all we did was just go faster before it did the same thing. So what my car would do is going down this 2-lane road, 165,
Yeah.
168 miles an hour. The slowest manual steering box I could find in it, so I wouldn't overcorrect it, and it would hit a bump and then compress, and then when it came up, take a gulp of air, whichever way it was pointing, that's where it went. And you'd countersteer at 1,001, 1,002, and then it would come back.
Pucker.
So it's like I'm just doing this at 165 miles an hour for about 3 or 4 miles, and I thought that's enough of that.
Oh,
shit.
yeah.
We're going to slow this thing back
It's
down
not a
because
Ferrari, yeah,
all I got to
exactly.
do is make one mistake, and it was
It's
the
all
first year I did it, and I still don't know what happened. But I was luckily in the right lane, 2-lane highway, the trucks and
Yeah.
everything, so there's grooves, and I'm thinking, I should probably be in the center. And about the time I'm thinking of that, the car just picked up and moved over. I never touched the steering wheel, the car just went, and I went, oh, here we go, right? And it just settled in the other lane and settled back down, and it's like, okay, what happened? I'm thinking trailing wind. What, at 150 miles an hour? No. It's like I have no idea. But in the middle of the track, it just did that, right? I was like, I got to stop doing this because it's going to
bet.
kill
It's
me.
not going to end good.
You ever
Yeah,
driven a
yeah.
Cobra? It does the same thing.
Yeah, oh, I'm sure
Oh,
it
you
does.
bet.
I mean, that's,
That's right.
those are evil cars too. Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
So, any more Bonneville exploits coming up?
I don't know. I've thought about it. Just the money and the time and the
sure.
effort. It's just, and I don't have that in me right now. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind going back. I don't know what I would do, but it would be something like that. If I did, it would be another car that's not
Sure.
supposed to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That type of, because that's just,
and that's something completely different from what you're really known for.
it
so
really
that's
is.
even more
Yeah.
impressive.
And that's why I like to do things outside the box and just be creative in those spaces. And to have the customers and the people around me to help see that through
Yeah.
has really been
You bet.
fascinating.
I've got a program that I did a simulation program for Top Speed. So now I'm interested in, because you do something called frontal area times drag coefficient, and you get drag area from that. And the drag area on 55 Chevy's got to be just a stupid number.
I would think.
Oh, because it was a stupid number for a 65 Chevelle.
Yeah.
And all I did was go from a 65 Chevelle to like a 1998 Firebird, and then plug that simulation in with the exact same drivetrain. I went 40 miles an hour faster.
No doubt.
40 miles an
No
hour
doubt.
faster.
Yep.
Almost like
There's a drag coefficient.
what am I doing here?
Oh, no, I know.
Throwing a brick through the air and trying to go fast.
but
you
it's
know?
cool.
Like,
But
it
it's
is
cool.
It is
So
cool.
there's
It is
that.
cool because people would walk by and they'd say, "So I can imagine the same thing at the." At,
They were
at
stacked
Bonneville.
up. They were
Oh,
stacked
yeah.
up going,
Yeah.
what did that say? How fast did
How
you say
fast
you
did you
go?
go?
And I'm like, I don't think it was like a low number, like 170 or something. I'm like, we're trying to go 200.
And they walk away shaking their head.
They're
going,
like, well, yeah, he just said 170. And I'm like,
Yeah.
but like we're like so far off the mark. It's
Yeah.
like it's sickening. And that 30 miles an hour is a lot of money.
and they're looking at the car and walking away going, everything I know is wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's,
So, who has more Chevelles?
I have 3 of them.
You have 3.
I have, well, if you
5.
count El Caminos,
You have 5, right?
I have
I don't count it. El Camino's not in his Chevelle.
That isn't. It isn't.
Caitlyn Jenner of the Jail World.
That's it.
I still have my high school car, my '68 Camaro.
Very good. Very good.
'68
Nice.
SS
He has
396
his
car.
66
I
big
have.
black.
I bought a '66 396 in '71.
All right.
It's not my first car, my second car, but that's the car I graduated in.
Very
kids,
good.
Kids came home from the
So
hospital.
you got
in
a
it.
better deal than I did then, because I paid $900 for my car.
Oh, you only paid $50 more than I paid for mine. I
Wow,
paid
that's not
$850
bad.
for my 360
There you
versus
go.
396.
There you go.
Yeah. It was a great deal. His farmer had it, and he was his second son was going to have the car. The oldest son bought it. They bought it new for the first son. Second son was going to own it. Apparently, he was a maniac. So
Okay.
Dad says you're going to kill yourself. So they pulled the big block out. Was going to put a small block in it. And I met him. He was looking for just a small block Chevelle. They decided they're just going to take that car and sell it.
Right.
So I had this GTO, which my best friend in high school had a 62 327 4-speed, and I couldn't beat him with my GTO. It's like, this
Okay.
piece of shit's got to go, right? So he tells me about this Chevelle, so I go and look at it, and it's love at first sight. You walk into this, open barn with dirt floor. There's bird shit all over the car,
Yeah.
and the motor's laying on its side, leaking oil into the dirt, and it was like love at first sight, So he said,
That's
well,
the best car
I'll-
you ever bought.
it was the best car I ever bought. And so I $850, but you got to put the motor in the car.
Yeah.
I said, okay. So I came back like a week later with a buddy of mine. We're going to put it in, and the car's sitting in the driveway. He had a paved driveway off a paved highway. So the car's sitting in the driveway, nose down, all detailed out, it's clean. And I thought, so I get there, and he goes, yeah, I think what happened was he was a smart guy. I thought, I'm going to have this kid that I've never met. Right, I was 17 years old, and some kid I've never met. I'm going to let him work on my car with his tools, and he's going to hurt himself, and then it's going to be my fault.
Yeah.
Right. So he just decided to pay a mechanic in town to finish the car and then detail it out, and then so I ran home, drove back home. It was like 40 miles back home. Got my mom to write a check, right,
Nice.
and come back. And I go to hand him the car with, my mom brought me back, and he goes, I can't let you take the car because you got to have insurance. It's like, so ran back to Boone, and that was on a Sunday. So Monday morning, I'm like this on the insurance agent's door when he opens it at 9 a.m. I said, write me a policy for this
Yeah.
car, and then we went back down and picked the car up. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Yep, that was in
Good stuff.
1971. So when did you buy yours?
Would have been 84.
Wow. So that's actually a better deal probably,
Yeah.
because that's 20 years.
That was a really good deal.
Yeah, 13
I mean,
years
considering
later.
you can't buy a Camaro for under 40 anymore.
Yeah.
And of course, it was a pile of junk when I bought it. And then I found out that it was a real car, and someone had knocked the front end off. And when I bought it, it had a '67 front end on it.
Really?
But it had deluxe interior, power windows, 12 bolt, power disc brakes. It was an automatic car, which
Okay.
I wasn't a fan on, but hey, it was what I could afford. And I drove it around, and it was actually Old Man Loper. When I went to his speed shop, I pulled in.
Right.
And I was buying speed parts for another Nova, whatever I was doing, and he comes out and goes, "Kid, you don't even know what you got." And I'm like, "Well, that's pretty standard. You sound like my dad. That's fine."
Yeah.
And he's like, "You ever sell that car? I buy it." And I'm like, "What have I got?" And then he's the one that educated me on the Camaro,
Really?
because he was
Okay.
big into Camaros. And he's like, "This is what you got. Don't be
Nice.
stupid. Don't give
Yeah.
it away."
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Well, that's kind of sort of worth it." So then the car was a 9-second street car. Then
9-second?
Oh
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
big block,
Wow.
632 dual dominator foggers and all that stuff.
Yahoo.
Trying to do that MCA fastest street car shootout way
Yeah.
back in the day, and realized I couldn't even qualify, let alone go fast. So
That,
there's
that,
that.
that was very competitive. Oh, boy.
Unbeknownst to me, but we tried it and it didn't work. And then the car sat on the side of the house forever, and eventually sold this and sold that off of it, and it sat forever. And then I was going to when my son came about, I was going to do a pro touring car, and I bought all the suspension and all that. And, and that Old Man Loper in the back of my head's like, "You're just screwing up a good car." And I'm like, you know what? I can buy any junk car to put, and I put it all back to original. Cut the
Okay.
cage out
Excellent.
of it,
Nice.
and I made it all back to original.
Nice.
And now it's about a 90%
Excellent.
right car.
Yeah.
Well, I
yeah.
don't know whether we.
Yeah.
I was going to have you tell him about your Camaro. Bottom line is, he found a 67
67.
Camaro, 2-barrel.
No, it was a what we thought was a 327
With an automatic.
with a power glide.
Yeah.
Turned out to be a 67 Z28. Yeah, there's a whole
Yeah.
story behind it.
Wow.
Yeah, you have to.
we
We'll do that
kept-
in another.
We kept that car right up until I went to move to Iowa, right? And I'm putting the word out, like,
Yeah.
if somebody wants to
A
buy
real
this
car,
thing,
yeah.
buy it before I go to Iowa. And nobody did, so shipped it back to Iowa. And I just get it inside the shop and get all the stuff unloaded and everything. And it's like, I'll stick it off in the corner because I got 3 other projects to do before
Right.
I jump to that one. Phone rings, and this guy says, "John Villegas," and he goes, still got that Z28? Been lusting that car for 20 years. He says, I hear you're moving to Iowa. I said, I already have. And he goes, did you ship the car? Yes.
So
He
do you
goes,
ship
I
it
want to
back?
buy that car. Turned right
Still-
around.
it still had
2
the-
weeks
still
later,
had
turned
the
around and shipped it back.
Still had the MP on the block for the.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
67
This was an
California car.
air injected car. So with
Nice
all the
stuff.
with all the parts, right? So he's in the process of restoring it.
That's good.
So which is good because that was the whole plan. It's like it might be another 20 years before
Yeah.
I get around to this thing, and so there's a whole story behind it. But
You know what those
yeah.
are going for now? They're like going
Big
100 and a
money.
half.
100,000 at least.
More.
Yeah. More
Yeah.
than that. Yeah.
More than that.
It's crazy.
Crazy.
So, and we just stumbled on the car. My wife needed a car. We moved to California in '79, and her driver had been run over by a garbage truck. So her dad said, "Well, when you get to California, just buy a California car. It'll be much easier." She wanted a Mustang. I'm not a Ford guy.
So what did he buy her?
Yeah, I bought her a Camaro. Actually, I didn't buy it. She bought it, but
Yeah.
and she knew what I was doing. I said, these are all crappy, but here's this bitchin' little Camaro. man.
Don't tell
We
her
should
what it's
buy
worth.
this.
Don't tell her what it's worth.
No, well,
Exactly.
she probably knows, but there's a whole nother story about that.
I know,
because
I know.
it was in the
that's
divorce.
episode 2.
In the divorce, it was her car, right? But I ended up with it. So
Very good.
There you go.
Very good.
well, I guess we got to wrap this up. Thanks so much
Thank
for
you
helping
very-
us out.
Yep,
This is
thanks
great.
for having us.
Thanks for coming
Yep.
along. This has been a great time.
Pleasure.
You bet.
And thank you for watching all these videos. We want to thank ARP-bolts.com for all our friends there at ARP, and also the Grand National Roadster people for having us here. This is a great venue. We're having a great time. And if you like the stories we're telling, keep with us, and we'll just tell you more.